Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday night. Tonight we have our engineer in the shadows, Howie Darkstar. Thank you for being here with us, Howie. And my faithful co-host.
Hey, what's up? It's not last call yet.
No, not yet. Jay has coffee. I have coffee, or whatever Jay has in his coffee.
I have juice. Juice spelled
Coffee.
Vodkag. Oh, whatever.
Got a few topics tonight I'd like to cover, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
One thing that I wanted to talk about was this. I've seen a lot of chatter about this. Have you heard people talk about the concept of, let's say last year was a normal year? It totally wasn't, but let's say it was.
Right.
Have you heard people ask the question, did you do 50 events last year, or did you do the same event 50 times?
I know that expression. Sure.
Yes.
I know guys that have been the same DJ for 20 years. They've done 20 years worth of one event.
Sure. No, I'm not suggesting that I've never been in that rut myself, because I absolutely have.
And we get into ruts. That happens.
You do.
Yeah.
And typically, I think when we talk about this, we're talking about music selection. It's playing the same songs repetitively.
Absolutely.
Every event.
Yep.
What I don't hear a lot of people talking about is repetitive speech patterns. And I think that's something that we should address.
Funny you bring that up. I know you and I have had this talk, and I got it from, I think it was Drax. Years ago I said something about, emceeing at a wedding, and he goes, you change your act up. I said, well, every event's a new event. He goes, okay, well, record yourself. That's all you got to do. Just record any random wedding. And I did. And I was shocked. Like, I kept saying the same thing over and over again. And I consciously started to get into that pattern of, and you did it today on your live YouTube show that I tuned in.
Yeah, that's right.
I was there. No, I was there. I support. I didn't know you were on YouTube to start with, so this is the first time I've seen your channel. It looks interesting. I'll check it out.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, I want to support. I'm going to subscribe later. But it's one of those things that, and you brought up a really, really valid point, and you and I have talked about this off camera.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate, and it's weird. I'm going to say this up front. It's weird. Legal gay marriages hit California 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd already done 40 of them. My first, what they then called a commitment ceremony.
Or the union or whatever.
The union. I did that in 1997. I did a wedding for two gentlemen. And it was so new that I said to them, to be a great song to end with, what? Bette Midler, you got to have friends. And they went with it. And I then found out later that was like the national AIDS song or something. And I'm like, fuck, really? It made so much sense at the time. I mean, and I'm the first to admit, I was right off the boat about this. I was doing Bette Midler. I was doing Barbara Streisand Someone. I was doing anything and everything I thought I should do.
Just stereotypically.
I really was. It was very stereotypical. And I was very fortunate that within a year or so, I got a residency at a gay hotel in San Diego.
Right.
And was very quickly schooled on, no, my friend. This is a wedding. It just happens to have two grooms. Right. And that was the biggest eye-opener. Mm-hmm. And that's the day I learned, how do you want to be introduced? And they said, what do you think? And I said, how about the newlyweds? And they went, sounds good. Yeah. And I'm not trying to rock boats, but this is all me. In my world, I then said to them, how about we do this? It was like Juan and Jim. I said, how about if I say, and now the newlyweds, Juan and Jim. And then after you take your seats, I'll say, And now Jim and Juan are going to open the buffet. Then the next time, and so I've always, every single same sex wedding I've ever done, on a sheet, I have the names written and I have check marks on either side.
Yeah.
So I always purposely switch it up.
Yeah.
Now, this changed on September 10th, 2011, or 9/10/11. I did a wedding for two gentlemen, James and Joe. And I said, oh, I'll switch. No, we're known as James and Joe.
Yeah.
And I said, so you don't want Joe and James? And Joe looked at me and kind of rolled his eyes like, no, because we really are known as James and Joe.
Oh, sure.
And Joe said, James is very loud and I'm not. So it'd kind of be like if you and I went out, it would be like, hey, everyone, Brian and Jay. That would make sense. But then if I'm the one really talking, and they might start to say, like, oh, it's actually Jay, like that. And that's the only wedding I've ever done for two people from the same sex where the names didn't change. They were James and Joe all night. And I'm still friends with them on Facebook.
Well, I want to get into that a little later on in the video. But what I wanted to really talk about was repetitive speech patterns that we get into as DJs, and why you might want to think about changing them up. And the phrase that I was talking about in the video, one of the phrases was ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I have made no secret that I don't like that phrase. I've talked about it in great length.
Yep.
Over the years. And I got my reasons for it. I don't want to rehash all that. But here's something that was telling. A lot of people love that phrase. They embrace it. They use it.
It's established.
They really feel like it's traditional. It makes them sound professional. And somebody mentioned that in the comment section of a link I put up. And I said, okay, let me ask you this. How many times do you use that phrase every night? And then, well, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
I use it a couple times during dinner. I use it for my opener, and I might use it a few times after that.
Fair enough.
That's an awful lot of saying the same thing over and over again, isn't it?
I think it's that there's a lot of things we do repetitively because it's what we do and what we've done.
Right.
And it's not easy. And, we live in a time now where Mr. Potato Head has to change his name and Dove can't say natural. And, let's cut to the chase. It's the cancel culture. And they're coming after the sense of...
Well, you're going at this from a political point of view, and you're making it political, and this was totally not. I just want to make that clear right off the bat before you go off on that thing. Because that's not where I'm going with this tonight.
All right. No. I'm saying I'm comfortable with ladies and gentlemen.
Well, okay. This is the disconnect that I'm getting.
I think it's a courtesy to the audience, but I also think it goes back to the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. When I watch old Bob Hope and old whoever, George Carlin, whoever, George Carlin is on video saying, ladies and gentlemen, as is Michael Buffer getting 15 grand to say, let's get ready to rumble.
I understand that. I understand that. And I will get to that. You're getting ahead of me here. Just give
I didn't realize that.
Point. What I'm trying to say is that, okay, let me just say this first. Because I want everybody to understand what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about the term being offensive. Okay, I've never said it was. I've never publicly said the term is offensive.
I don't think it is.
I don't know that anybody does. So I don't want to go that direction with this.
All right, we don't have to.
What I want to do is talk about repetitive speech patterns. Here's what I'm at. Here's the challenge that I put out there. If for some reason you could no longer say, ladies and gentlemen, would you know what to say? That's the question.
That's a valid question.
And the reason I ask this and the reason I bring it up is because, again, going back to what I said earlier, when we talk about doing the same event over and over and over again, we're always thinking about the music, but are you thinking about your emceeing? Why is this important? Why is this even something to bring up or discuss? Well, you can make the same argument with the music. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
You find this rhythm with your speech, and you find this script that you feel like really works well.
Mm-hmm.
And all you do is, the names have changed to protect the innocent. Otherwise, it's the same kind of thing every evening.
Thank you, Jack Webb.
If you switch up the music and you keep the speech pattern, is it really different? I don't think so. And I guess something else that I wanted to just say is that it's really scary to change a proven formula. Because I think, and I don't know if you feel me on this or not, but if you've got something that you've honed over time and it works, like every time you do an event, you get a relatively decent reaction from it.
Right.
And all of a sudden, one day somebody tells you to change it. Is that scary?
I think it is. I think there's a level of comfort. And you bring up a quick story about another host from the Disc Jockey News Network, Dave Chenair, or Tenier. If I mispronounce his name, I apologize. I rented him gear. He's from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he came down to Palm Springs for a wedding, and he got my name probably 5 years ago and said, hey, I was given your name and I'm doing a wedding in Palm Springs, and I heard you might be able to rent gear, and I did. So we met up. I gave him the gear. He went off and did his wedding. I met him 2 days later. He gave me back the gear, and I said, if you don't mind me asking, how'd this wedding go? And I won't disclose pricing, but he gave a price that he was given on top of his flight, the hotel, and I believe the car rental. And the price just to do a 5-hour wedding in Palm Springs was 3 times what I charged in Palm Springs at the exact same moment. So, of course, I was a bit taken aback. And I said, wow, really? He goes, yeah, they saw me in Canada and this and that. I said, I follow you on Facebook. You've gone to all the, Marbecca. Mark Farrell and his beautiful wife, Rebecca, they have this organization put together where they do the Marbecca trainings. Mm-hmm. I said, you've done all those. He goes, oh, I love those. I've done all of them. And they're all about $1,500 a pop. I said, do me a favor. I've rented you gear at a decent value. Would you mind giving me something that you've learned? And he goes, what do you say when you open a wedding? Like the crowd sits down, you're about to introduce the bride and groom. What do you say? And do they applaud? I said, I usually say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring the bride and groom in a moment along with the wedding party. Please make a lot of noise, yada, 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 this and that. And no, they don't normally applaud. He goes, next wedding, try this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Brian and Blanca's wedding reception. And raise your voice on the word reception. I said, okay. I do a wedding the next weekend. Go in there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brian and Blanca's wedding reception. The entire audience lost their shit and started to applaud. And I'm like, wow. So it feeds into exactly what you're saying about changing up.
Yeah.
The reality is, yes, we should be changing up how we do all of this, but we tend to work off the lowest common denominator, which is, I know this works.
Right.
I know if I say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, how are you?
It's tough to change.
It's very tough.
Because you don't want to deliver something that you feel like is the best product you have to offer at your next wedding just because you want to be different.
But how do you value it? How do you say that I should change from, hey, boys and girls, hey, party people, hey, ladies and gentlemen, hey, whatever. What validates the change? Meaning, if I'm going to change it, it has to be for the better.
It?
Right, exactly.
Why change it?
And I only did that because I looked at Dave and said, he's charging 3 times what I'm charging. He knows something I don't know. So
let's talk about
try what he
something.
does.
That's a really good question, Jay. So let's talk about something that you can relate to. Let's talk about AC/DC. All right.
Hey, Scrapper.
You like
Hey,
AC/DC,
Brian.
right?
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
Howie. Hey, Deb.
Does AC/DC put out a new album every few years?
AC/DC puts out the same album every few years.
Right.
And it's amazing.
It's been the
because
same album.
when I order
How many
meatloaf
years?
and potatoes, I don't want to taste chicken and quinoa. And that's what AC/DC is stuck to, a formula that doesn't fail. And they're probably, admittedly, the only band you and I can name outside of the Stones who can go on tour tomorrow and sell out stadiums, not arenas.
I understand AC/DC is very popular. Now, I'm personally, they're not my bag.
Nope.
I'm
You don't
not
have
like
any of their vinyl, do you? You have
sure
zero
I do, but
AC/DC.
I have
Oh.
Dirty Deeds. I have Back in Black. I have 2 copies of it.
Oh,
but-
good. Okay.
But I mean, I've heard it. I'm kind of done hearing it. And
Not your thing.
that's where I'm at on this.
Okay.
Did I enjoy AC/DC's Dirty Deeds? Yes. Did I enjoy
Great
Back
album.
in Black? Sure.
Great album.
In the albums that followed. But you know what? I've heard it. Now, let's talk about David Bowie.
Who?
Bowie did a different album every time.
Oh, Bowie did a different persona every time.
Now, here's the interesting thing about Bowie, and I know we're getting music geeky on some of you, so I'm losing some of you already. But
Sorry, guys.
Joel is already gone. Joel has ran away because we're talking.
Joel's in Atlanta going,
Ah.
he wants
So-
to talk about Hotlanta stuff. Maybe just Jermaine Dupri.
Point being is, not every Bowie album was something that resonated with me. Not every album that he did. Now, I loved Young Americans. I love Ziggy Stardust. Yeah, but some of the stuff just didn't hit as hard. But then some of the stuff he did later, I really liked. And I loved
The
Black
Lodger.
Star album.
Oh.
I loved it.
Black Star's a good album.
Now,
What about The Lodger?
yeah,
Love
I
The
like
Lodger.
that album. I
Love it.
warmed to that album eventually. My point being is, David Bowie took chances, and
Yes.
David Bowie grew as an artist.
You're right.
And if
100%.
David Bowie would have done Young Americans over and over and over again for 50 years,
Right.
he wouldn't have grown as an artist.
Nope.
Now, it's not that you wouldn't have liked Young Americans over and over again, like you like AC/DC over and over again,
Right.
but it's different. He got better.
He did.
Really get better. And you talk about George Carlin earlier as a comedian, as an artist. He got better. He didn't get better because he did the same show over and over again. He got better because he did a show a year and then he scrapped his material and he started all over again. He worked on his show, did his HBO special. It was amazing. It was refined. It was where he wanted it. He did it. He was done with it. He threw it in the garbage and started over again. It's about growth as an artist. So if you have something that you say, something that you do at every event that works, and you're afraid to change it in fear that it might not be as good, remember, if this is what you do and this is what you're comfortable with, that's fine. But you aren't going to grow as an artist. You're as good as you're ever going to be because you're not willing to try anything new.
I have to interject, Brian. The example makes sense, but the difference is we as DJs are playing to a crowd that is there for someone else.
Yes.
Carlin, AC/DC, Bowie, they're playing for a crowd that wants them.
Right.
This is what I tell every client when I say, the reason I love weddings is because I have a crowd in front of me that didn't pay to come see me.
Right. I'm
I'm not a house
Calvin
DJ
Harris.
in a house club playing
Yeah.
house music.
Yeah, you're not Paris
Right.
Hilton showing up. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So I'm a DJ playing to a strange crowd that
Uh-huh.
didn't pay to see me,
Yep.
didn't come to see me,
Right.
and doesn't know what I'm all about. So
Right.
it's my job in 4, 5, 6 hours. Or actually, here in Southern California, most of our weddings are 18 hours long. I don't know about you in the Midwest. I heard they're like 7 hours or 8
Yeah,
hours.
what the hell's
It's
with that?
nothing. But the only issue becomes the crowd in front of me this week isn't going to be here next week.
Right.
And nor am I going to show up the next day and do the same act.
Right.
So I think what we need to focus on is, do we have multiple intros, multiple expressions? When I recorded myself, and again, Drax, I have to thank you on that. I found at the time I said and well a lot.
And
Well, ladies and
I'm
gentlemen,
still trying to break you to be
well.
honest.
To be honest, you're 100%. And
Yeah.
but this is the joy of it all. This is that, and we know people in the industry that are touted as being gods and they're way above us and all that. And they all still do, wearing their shirt and tie or whatever.
Yeah.
They still do what they do repetitively, and they do it in a manner that, if they broke it down, could be changed. So I guess I love your question. And now, as an answer, how do we go about doing this?
Good
do we
question.
have multiple intros? Like,
Well-
what is your? Let's start with you. If you have a wedding tomorrow night, the crowd comes in, cocktail ceremony's over, they all sit down. You have a bride and groom and 4 people in a wedding party in the corner. What do you traditionally say as your opener?
Well, I'll answer your question, but then I will reply to your other question because you've asked me like 5
I've asked
questions
7
in your
questions,
monologue.
yes.
You do
I've
this
tried.
crap to me. Give me a
Well,
chance
to be honest,
reply.
Brian,
So, to answer the last question you just asked, I used to do the same thing I was taught to do. I did it for many years. It worked, and I did it. I would get on the microphone and very shyly say, well, it looks like it's time to start the entertainment portion of the evening. Good evening, everyone.
we would
And then there would be
NPR at the time.
like muffled conversation. I'm going,
Yeah.
okay, let's try this again. Good
Thanks,
evening, everyone. And then they would just jump because I would scare them. Hey, I'm
Right.
Brian. I'm your DJ. This is what's happening tonight. I did that for years because it worked and it was kind of funny. It was like a trick that we did. Now, it depends on the event I'm doing. I don't have a standard thing I say because I always say something different. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I was able to do it.
Well,
But
that's
here's a couple
remarkable.
things that I'll go back and reply to what you were asking me about earlier.
An hour ago. Sure.
An hour ago. Well, 5 minutes ago. How do we go about changing it? Is what was your question?
Yes.
How would we do this? I don't think it's reasonable to have honed a performance and a show, music, MC skills, the whole bit, wad it up, throw it in the garbage, and start over next weekend. I don't think that's even a reasonable thing to ask of the average person. What I
agree.
will say is that there's nothing wrong with changing a thing next week. Change one thing, try something new next week, and see how it works. Like you were saying, bring it up. Welcome to Bob and Jennifer's wedding reception, or however you did it. That was one thing you tried. You may not have changed anything else that evening.
No, I didn't.
Tried that.
And by the way, I still do that today. And
Yeah.
every single freaking time the audience starts to applaud, because I realized something that you are going to be so excited to hear, which Dave said. He's like, you have to understand, you're an MC. They look at you like Jay Leno, like a comedian, like the host of a show. So their only knowledge is you're going to guide them through the night. So you need to immediately get them on your side. I remember Scott Favor, who is amazing at this, saying to me one time years ago, because I said something to him about, like, when you talk to the crowd, like, how do you get them over? And he's like, I had a wedding and this and that. It wasn't going. I could tell. So I just said, ladies and gentlemen, when I speak to you on the microphone, I want you to know up front, I'm only going to speak and say things that are going to make the bride and groom happy. My promise to you is I will only be speaking this evening if it betters the bride and groom's night. And the crowd was like completely on his side with that. Like, oh, cool. So if you're talking, we need to shut up and listen. Because I can't stand, and I don't know if you do this, Brian, but I can't stand when I have to say, folks, if I could have your attention. To me, if you say that, you've lost the crowd already.
There's some things that we can talk about with that later on. And I'd like to talk about it because I have some techniques that I have been using that I really like that kind of eliminate that.
I'm interested to hear them.
And it's just one of those things that I was always curious about. Now that I'm using it, I can't go back to not using it because I really like it.
That's perfect. But I yell, hey.
Hey!
Yeah, no, really loudly. Or I'll let the mic feedback.
Before I get into that, I do want to say that I got a really interesting comment on my live stream that I want to share with you. It's a perspective. Going back
probably
to
from me.
The ladies and gentlemen argument that I have. And again, if you say this and you like the phrase and you can't do a gig without it, don't.
And we're not saying it's wrong.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Do you. Just do you. I'm just throwing it out there.
We're not saying, AKA Brian, that it's wrong. Because I didn't say it was wrong. Brian.
I think it's wrong. I think it's cheap. I really do.
Played out.
Very
over.
Much.
You want them to be much more non-sexual about this.
It has nothing to do with that. I just feel like it's something that people say when they want to sound professional, but really don't know what to say.
That's valid.
That's what I think.
That's valid.
But that's me personally. But that's not what I was going to talk about. You baited me. You got me.
Okay, but would you have said this 10 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying it for a very long time. I don't like saying it.
That's valid.
What I wanted to share with you was a comment that I got on the live stream from a magician. And what he said was, in our community, we've been talking about this phrase a lot lately, and we're discouraging others to use it simply because of this. When you say something like ladies and gentlemen, you're talking at people. It's very big. You're talking to a vast number of people who you could never address individually. It's not personal. It's this big thing that you say, and it is. They do it for sporting events. They do it at the circus. It's this big thing. Said, but it is not intimate. And with some of this close-up magic stuff, it's a very intimate thing. And you don't want to do this. You want to bring them in. And ladies and gentlemen, is it bringing them in? So I thought that was a really interesting point. But
I agree.
The other thing that I was going to say, I forgot. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to tell you what I'm doing. Instead of trying to, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? And that was the thing, too. I realized, oh, geez, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I would say ladies and gentlemen, because that's what I was taught to do because it sounded professional. But then it was always followed up with something stupid like at this time. And it was screamed on the microphone.
Right.
To get people's attention. It occurred to me that the real problem was the volume of your voice. And ladies and gentlemen, the first time you say it might get everybody's attention. Second time you say it, you might get some people's attention. After you've said it 5 times, people are going to start ignoring you because whatever you had to say can't be that important anymore.
I think that's why Scott said, I try to tell them every time I speak, it will always have something good for the bride and groom. So that's
an important thing to do. I mean, yeah. I've talked about this before in great length. I've made no secret that I only turn the mic on and say things when I have something to say.
Me too.
That's
I mute at most events. Unlike here, I am absolutely mute. I only say what I need to.
Right.
It's not my event. It's the bride and groom. Yeah.
Years ago, back when I said things like ladies and gentlemen, when I was young, it was
You make it sound like the rest of us are old for saying it, though, by saying that.
It's a very old-fashioned thing to say. People say,
Well, I think it's a
you said it
professional thing.
yourself, Jay.
I know,
Carlin
but
said it. Jack Benny
yes,
said it.
right. But I'm
said it
saying it's
yourself.
professional. But can we
It's
agree
old
it's
school.
professional? It's a
old
style.
school. And
Let's say it's a style.
They were addressing millions of people on television. They weren't
Right.
trying to bring you in intimately and and get to know you and play to you. It was different. They had to show you what they had to show you. They weren't going to change it for you. It was a big thing. This
Right.
is a more intimate thing to do, to not to say it. But when I used to use the microphone a lot because I needed to somehow get people's attention. I was not getting it with the music because my library wasn't that vast. We didn't have MP3. We didn't have all this huge catalog. We had to make do with what we had. So
Right.
we're trying to win them over with our personality, not necessarily our music selection, because we didn't always have the music selection. But as I got the music selection with a CD and a big library and all that, I found I had to say less because I could let the music speak for itself.
Good point.
So that's why I started talking less, because I didn't need to say anything.
Right.
But the thing about screaming on the microphone, because we used to do a lot of that, we have to get them their attention. We have to yell on the thing. I don't do that anymore. I speak in a voice like this when I talk on the microphone. It's very intimate. It's personal. And I'm able to do that with the use of compression. Microphone compression.
There
If you
you go.
don't know what microphone compression is, well, compression in general is typically looked at as a bad thing when it comes to music production for purists, because everything's the same volume. The guitar, the keyboards, the drum, the vocals, it's all cranked up to the max to the same volume. It's not like the guitar is quiet and the drums are louder and the vocals are in the middle. Compression brings everything to the same level. It's the same thing with your speaking voice. It doesn't matter if you're screaming or whispering. It's the same volume and it's loud.
Right.
So you don't have to use, speaking from your diaphragm like you're screaming at people anymore. You can just talk to them like this.
Well,
but it's loud. And that is such a cool tool. It just brings a whole new dimension
absolutely.
to my emceeing. And the way I can really intimately connect with a crowd. Because I sound sincere. I don't sound like I'm talking at them anymore. I'm speaking with them.
Right. I have to ask two questions, because last Tuesday I was not here.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunately booked at a gig in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into grave detail, but I will say what I used. I used two CDJ 3000s and a DJM V10. And the V10 has a button, or actually a knob, on all 6 channels. And above the knob, at the top of the mixer, it says compression. And it's a compressor. And I messed around with it all night. And I noticed the lights wouldn't go up, but my ears sensed it was louder. Every time I'd be playing a song, like, turn up the compression, and it got louder, but the actual channel lights didn't go up.
No, it's not going to make it's not going to make
it sounded louder.
It's not going to make the overall volume louder, but what it will do,
but it sounded,
well, the reason it's
my ear
is because it
started matching frequencies
up to the same level,
right? And everything was the same frequency.
So let's say the drums are at 0 dB, the guitar is at -3 dB, or no, the drums are at 0, the bass guitar is at 0, the vocals are at -3, the guitar is at -6. What compression will do is bring everything to 0.
Right.
So
and it sounded great.
Overall louder, but the sounds within the recording are all at the same level.
Right. And I used to use a thing years and years ago. I'm actually selling it. I got to get it on Reverb, called an oral exciter.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of it, as it was explained to me when I bought it, was it took the high and low frequencies, which travel at different speeds, and matched them up.
Yeah.
So you get a different impact.
Right.
So my two questions to you are: one, what kind of gear are you using that you can use compression? But two, more importantly, what is your opening words when you speak on the microphone?
Well, okay. First of all, I'm using something that you can't buy anymore because it's been discontinued. I'm using.
One of those.
I'm using
deals.
the
Okay,
DBX Go
good for
Rack.
you. Oh, nice. Okay, and that has
Yeah. Now you
compression
can.
built in.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Compression is a tool in the Go Rack.
People could probably still find it used online
You
somewhere.
absolutely could probably find it used online. There are probably other
Okay.
things out there similar to it, or you could get a complete drive rack. Normally, when people get a drive rack, what they want to do is they want to use it. They want to run their main signal through it, run their whole system through the drive rack. I'm just using processing on the microphone. I'm not using it anywhere else.
Okay.
It's pre-mixer that I'm processing this gear. So I've got a separate microphone mixer with compression built in
Nice.
that goes to the mixing board. I'm not processing my overall signal, just my microphone signal and my mic signal. I don't process the guest mic.
Right. Okay.
I get the
that
good
makes
mic.
sense.
I get the good mic and I get the processing.
Okay. Perfect.
It's kind of like, I don't whether you like him or not, it doesn't really matter. But if you ever listen to the Howard Stern show,
I like Howard.
Howard
I
Stern's
like Howard.
voice is huge.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah.
Huge. That's me as a DJ. And that's my mic.
So it's pushed out there in one level. So that's compression. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But
so
now the more important
Howard Stern
aspect,
talks like this. Yeah,
right?
his voice
Like he's
has
right up on the mic.
bass in it, and it's just
Yeah, it's right there on the mic.
yeah.
But what is your opening? The last event you did, what is the first words you said on the microphone?
Again, I have to go back to this. I say something different every time. I don't do the same show every night. I don't say the same thing every night. I've taken it to this level as an artist where,
Wow.
and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but this was my point of this whole thing with changing up your speech patterns. Not only can you do fresh music at every bit in a fresh order once you can break yourself of the repetitiveness of things, but you can say fresh things on the microphone and you can be sincere and in the moment. As long as you look at things like your ums and your, rhetorical speech, if you can eliminate that stuff from your vocabulary, it's liberating. You can just talk and it's not going to sound goofy. But usually most of the time, my opening line with compression on the microphone, most of the time, hello, or hello, or hey, everybody, or something like that.
Okay.
How was dinner? I mean, it could be just something as simple as that. I just say, how was dinner? But it's loud on the microphone, so I don't have to scream it. But dinner was good. Yeah, it looked really good. How you doing? Hey, I'm Brian, your DJ. I mean, it's stuff like that, but it's off the cuff. I don't
So
have
you don't have 3 or 4 things that,
No, not anymore.
tonight it's ladies and gentlemen.
Next
week it's like party people. Next week it's this.
I never say ladies and gentlemen on the microphone unless we're on this broadcast and I'm using this microphone to talk to you. I don't say that at an event. I don't have to. I don't like it. I've talked about that in great length, but it's to the point now where I can just speak off the cuff. We've talked about stand-up comedy a lot. You give me a hard time about this, but I learned so much from those guys.
No. I do, but I don't, not in a bad way. I give you a hard time because there are times that I think people don't understand what you mean in the timing.
Yeah, they don't.
Because we both know, and I still go back to the famous Marshall Leak, you and me, top floor. Where were we?
That was we were at Trop.
We're at Tropicana.
We're at Trop.
And it was still, I look back on that, and it's got to be 4 or 5 years old, but it is one of the funniest, best examples to me of timing ever.
You have to let, you know why it worked? Because you let your straight man breathe a little bit. You've got to make a pause so I can respond.
Yes.
if you don't pause and you just monologue for 5 minutes, I'm never going to be able to
No,
interject.
no, no, 100%.
But if you stop, I can interject, and it could be something as simple as the Mayan calendar, which is exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
What calendar are you using? And then you go, Mayan? And it was hysterical. I mean, it was fucking hysterical. And it's like, oh my God, this is magic. Like literally every time I see that, I go back and watch it. I'm like, that was the best I've ever seen. Like,
Well,
and like in the moment, bang. So
Yeah.
when you're at a crowd, you're looking at the crowd as a whole with the need to speak to them. Let's say they come in from cocktail, they sit down for the introduction, and in your head, you're just like, how was the bartender? Or how's everyone doing? Or so you're just literally in the moment riffing on the crowd.
Can you believe what a
Riffing.
beautiful day it was today? Can you believe this?
Okay.
Oh my
that's-
gosh. The sun. It was beautiful today. It's been cold, rainy, and we had this beautiful day today. Wasn't that fantastic?
So that's a great example of what
I mean,
you
it's done
started
things
with.
like that.
Well, because a lot of us have a routine, like
Yeah.
your poignant question in the beginning,
Right.
And it's very hard to leave what works
Right.
when you're accustomed to doing. And I'm the first to admit, goddamn, 12, 13, 14 years of like, ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, I'm going to introduce the wedding party. I'm going to ask that you make a lot of noise for the brides and grooms and blah 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 blah.
Doesn't when you
stand up?
when you hear yourself say
It
that,
sounds stupid.
well, no, it's not stupid, but doesn't it remind you of the spiel, the safety speech you get when you get on an
Announcement on a
airplane?
plane. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And they say it really fast because they know it by heart, and they're trying to buzz through it really fast, and they're so comfortable with it. And they don't have
There's no intimacy.
no, none. It's the coldest thing in
No,
the
you're
world.
right.
And this is all I'm trying to say. You know, I'm really
Well,
just
it's 100% correct then.
well, I don't know that it's correct or not. It's just an idea. Whereas if you really want to change things up and you really want to do a different show every night, how about changing up the way you say things and work on not only your programming skills, but your MC skills and your connection with the crowd. And you're not, again,
Well,
like
let
I
me
said
ask-
before.
I was
you're
going to say,
not-
let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot. You're in the middle of cocktail.
Uh-huh.
So there's a group of people in front of you. There's a bar. You're playing cocktail background, whatever. And suddenly you get this. Hey, DJ, I'm the photographer. Can you ask all of the cousins of the bride to cruise over here? And I'm always faced with, is this my intro? Is this where I say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Milwaukee Brewery House on this beautiful Saturday.
Right.
I'd like to ask that the bride's cousins all make their way over. Or do I interrupt what they're doing and say, how's everybody doing? At this time, I need the bride's cousins. Or
Never
do
say
I,
at this time. Of course it's at this time.
right, but
Otherwise
that's
you
my
would say, hey, in about an hour, could you do this thing?
see,
course
but
it's at
that's
this
the
time.
well, ladies and gentlemen, at this, but that's my
To be
point.
honest.
Right. We have these things.
Yeah.
We have these things in our head.
Right.
And unless you do them in the mirror or unless you record it, it's near impossible to understand that you're being that repetitive
Right.
or that you're being that, consistent, let's say,
Right.
with a message that makes no sense at this time. Of course, at this time.
Of course.
Well,
Right.
like what the fuck does well mean? And I
And
say
it's-
it all the
it's
time.
just-
Like,
it's- and I'm
well,
not-
ladies and gentlemen, like
not trying
no
to-
shit.
I'm not trying to pick on you, but it's the same
No,
thing.
no. I want you to in respect
No,
because
but
I want
hear
to
me
change
out.
it up.
It's like you saying, well, to be honest, are you saying that normally you're lying to me? But this time, full disclosure, I'm not bullshitting you. I'm
A lot
being
of times I lie. Not gonna. Well, to be
yeah,
honest,
but
sometimes I lie.
even if you do lie sometimes, you don't want to tell people that you're doing it.
Yes, I'm not a great
If you're slick with
poker
all-
player.
Yeah.
Poker, I get out there and I go, to be honest, I have no hand. And then everyone folds. I never understand that.
It could be as simple as, hey, what's going on? Yeah, welcome.
I think the level of comfort that you have in the room
Yeah.
is oftentimes what dictates and guides you to where you end up. And you
Well-
know, when it's all said and done, you have a crowd of strangers in front of you. who are all there for the same reason, and you're a conduit or a catalyst between the crowd and the bride and groom or the host or whoever, the birthday boy or the bar mitzvah, the quinceanera, whatever it is. And your role in all this is to get them to end up at the end of the night where they should be. So oftentimes I think we as DJs walk into the event with a cavalcade of different expressions that we can throw out there, but we still come out with, well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I mean, because you go to the point or, the moment of least resistance, and it's just what you're accustomed to, and it's what
very
you
important.
do.
It's very important to me because, well, I think you know this about me. You know me well. This is a big deal to me. I
It's
love
a
this.
huge deal to you. And it's a huge deal that bothers me because every time you bring it up to me, I'm always like, no, totally, Brian. And when we get off the phone or something, I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm totally guilty of everything you just brought up because I have that sense of repetitive.
I'll do videos on this, and they'll get a lot of negative feedback because I think people are upset. They feel like I'm calling them out, and I'm
complimenting Dave Chenair on something he did 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm saying to you, I still do it at every friggin' event because at every friggin' event they make applause. It's like,
this is the only kind of stuff I want people to think about. This is it.
They clap at every event when I say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brian and Blanca's wedding reception.
So
and they all go nuts. And you're like,
even think about changing that?
Why would I? They go nuts.
Because you're not growing if you don't.
I know, but I'm playing different music. Well, I'm still playing Usher, yeah.
Well, like I was trying to say before, you know me, you know how important this is to me. It's important that I grow. If I'm not growing at this, I'm stagnant. I'm never going to change. And I'm really, as far as I'm concerned, irrelevant. I always need to have growth. I always need to be improving as an artist. And this is an art.
And you're only as good as your last gig. And that's that's been my motto.
You say that,
day one.
And I don't like that.
Day one. I love it.
I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because it implies the pressure of not changing anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Make sure.
No, it implies that you have to perform at 101% every time. Give your best for that group, and that event.
But then you start questioning yourself whether or not you are brave enough to change things because, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? What if it's not as good as last time?
You have to change. If you say you're only as good as your last gig, you're constantly changing. You're never relying on this always works, I'll just do this. Now, I will say, even though I just said that, the introductions, the small talk on the mic, that's an area that I don't really include in that. I include the music and the mixing, but I don't oftentimes think of, and I now will because of your wake-up call.
But you know what's so weird about this?
I say on the mic.
What's so weird about this, Jay? And this is, I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
You can riff anything.
I try.
You can riff it. Like if you have to give a presentation of some kind.
Oh, I'm fine.
You don't even have to study on it. You can just go. And you're so good at it. You're the perfect guy.
Yep.
To do what I'm talking about, and you don't do it.
I don't. Maybe I should.
But you're the perfect guy to do it.
Then you have to start
the skill set to do this. And it's amazing to me because I think some people maybe aren't public speakers and they've been brave enough to find these things to say that are effective and they don't want to move. And that's okay. I'm not telling you you're a bad person if you're not changing things up. I'm just saying that if you can bring yourself to change things up, then maybe you might grow and you be the guy to do this.
Well, it's funny because what you're saying that I'm hearing, and I'm actually in my brain having the discussion, I think of what I do at an event as being so structured and so by the book and within the lines that there's no room to be outside of that. At least on the speech.
It's the pressure. Can I share something?
it's that when I do a seminar in front of 400 people at a show and I pick up the mic, it's relatively nothing. It's, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on, Jim? Hey, Brian, what's hey?
But
It's
the
that
thing
sense of
is,
familiarity, and then it
okay,
starts.
so I'll say this before I get into what I was going to say before.
Okay.
The reason that you're so effective as a demonstrator is because you're a likable guy.
I try.
You know, I'm being sincere here. You are a
Thank you.
likable guy. You're a likable personality. People connect with you. You connect with people. You speak to people. You don't speak at people
Nope.
when you're giving a presentation.
I don't lie to them.
Why would you do anything different in a wedding reception? You're a likable guy. You don't have to put on a persona to
It's
be
the
likable.
first time
You're already a
anyone has
likable
ever
guy.
said that to me in respects to what I do weekly as a DJ. And even now, I'm going to be honest with you.
Stop saying that. No, lie to
You
me.
are correct.
Lie to me.
You are correct. No, I'm going to walk away from this show, and my next event is in a month, and I will probably sit back and realize that every event will be different from now on. It won't be this, because it'll be like, shit, Brian was right. Like,
Well, maybe
you
I'm wrong.
got to be you on the mic. You got to be you on the
Be
mic.
you. Yeah, be you. I mean, you
Yeah.
are the product. And you're a
I
likable
don't think
guy.
well, and
I
I've
mean, Jesus, you
spent
could be
20
Howie
plus
Darkstar, our
years.
producer. You could be
Right.
him. I mean, what's he going to do?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Howie Darkstar. I'm over here at Max Kansas City.
No, Howie's.
I could be Scrappa. Hey, Brian. Hello, Howie. Hey, Deb.
I will say this. I
Robin.
will say this though. Something I was trying to get out earlier, and I want to make sure that I do say it because I think it's very relevant before we wrap the show. It's very important to have
be
confidence,
yourself.
to have confidence in being
Right,
yourself.
but I think the bottom line of this discussion of literally almost an hour that I'm walking away with is, you know what? Be you on the mic. Not be what you expect or think you're supposed to be.
Be yourself.
And I'll be dead honest with you, Brian. I love you to death, but I'll be dead honest. When you first ran that out there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fish in a barrel. Like, I'm just going to shoot everything he has to say down because this makes no sense. Like, what the F is he talking about? Like, once again, Brian's got to be different than everybody. Now I'm like, wait a second. That's kind of exactly the point. Like, I'm not Brian, and Brian's not me, and I'm not Howie, and I'm not Brian, and I'm not Robin, and I'm not Deb, and just pick it up. But I think it's going to take time for a lot of us, including me, to actually realize that when the mic gets turned on, that it is you that's running the mic, because we're so formatted into thinking of our events as, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Milwaukee Country Club. My name is Jay. I'm so happy to be here. Like, we don't, it's so formatted that it's hard to think of it outside of that realm.
People get a kick out of it when I'll turn on the microphone. I'll just be like, hey, what's up? And then they laugh. They're like, they didn't expect it. They expected, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the wedding reception. But I didn't do that. And they're like, holy shit.
Do they applaud that, Brian? Do they applaud?
Riffing.
Do they applaud? I may stick with
They laugh. They laugh. And that's a connection.
I mean, but you know what the connection could be? The connection could be, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brian and Blanca's wedding reception. And they all start laughing and clapping. And you go like, no, okay, so you know what's going to happen now, right? Like, in a second, I got to introduce some people. You got to make some noise. You guys know what to do, right?
The best compliment I ever got. The best compliment I ever got at an event. It was years ago, and it was somebody who I went to school with. They didn't know me as a DJ though; like they just knew me as a guy from school. And afterwards, unprompted, they came up to me and they said, "You know what I really liked about tonight?" So what's that? Says, you weren't the DJ. You were like a guy who was here like everybody else, but you happen to be providing a service. Oh, well, that's cool. Thank you for that. But I really took that to heart. Compliment.
Well, you know what? That's the same secret I learned about Twitch recently when I realized I thought Twitch was a live streaming format where I had to DJ. And then I found out after watching a bunch of people and the interaction, no, it's like going to a nightclub where there's a DJ and there's 1,000 people, but the DJ shouts you out from the booth and you don't feel like you're just part of a crowd. You feel special. So maybe the ability that we have on the microphone changes the perspective of a guy's talking at me. Because you've gone to the same seminars I have where it's like, if you don't say the right thing within 5 seconds, you lose the crowd and this and that, and this and that. And it's like, yeah, how do I get the friggin' crowd on my side? Maybe it's just talking.
Be you.
Maybe it's not talking at them,
Right.
but it's talking to them.
Yes. Intimacy. Guys, I hope you liked the show tonight. It's a little different. I think we had a great conversation.
I think we did. Yeah, I'm definitely. I swear to you, I'm walking away with, with an entirely new perspective.
I just have to
just because I'm listening to what even I said about it's not talking at them, it's talking to them.
Yeah,
like you would talk to someone in the store, like, "Hey, how's your day going?" But in the respects to, I can't ask 150 people how their day is going, but I can.
But when you ask them, people, "Hey, how's your day going?" They respond to you.
Right. But I could ask them, how excited are you guys to see these two come out here? Or, isn't this amazing? What a great couple. And they're all excited about that because that's why they're there, you know? Or whatever I say, which will probably be, ladies and gentlemen. Well, to be honest, I'm here to introduce.
At this time,
At this time.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.